Something about this moment didn't feel normal. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic in the obvious way. But if you were watching closely, you felt it, because in a room built on centuries of tradition, where every movement is calculated, every gesture rehearsed, every symbol deeply understood, one woman made a choice. A small choice. A subtle one, but one that sent shockwaves through the internet. March 2024. Commonwealth Day at Westminster Abbey. Senior royals lined up. One by one they greeted King Charles III and Queen Camilla. Prince Edward bowed. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh curtsied. Catherine, Princess of Wales lowered herself gracefully. Everything was as expected. Everything followed protocol. Everything made sense. And then came Princess Anne. And, in that moment, everything changed. Because instead of bowing, instead of curtsying, and leaned forward and kissed Camilla on both cheeks.
No bow, no curtsy.
No acknowledgement of hierarchy. Just a gesture. Controlled. Polite. But unmistakably intentional. And just like that, the internet exploded. People noticed immediately. Comments flooded social media. Questions started spreading. Did she just refuse to curtsy? Was that deliberate? Is she even supposed to? Because here's the thing. In the royal family, nothing is accidental. And when someone like Princess Anne, arguably the most disciplined, protocol-driven royal alive, breaks expectation, it means something. Now, technically, Anne did nothing wrong. After coronation of Charles III, the rules changed. Royal women born into the family, like Anne, no longer have to curtsy to Camilla. So, legally, she was within her right. But this moment was never about rules. This was personal, because what most people saw as a simple gesture was actually the surface of something much deeper. A story that goes back over 50 years. A story involving love, rivalry, heartbreak, and a tension that quietly shaped the royal family for decades. To understand that moment, you have to go back to the beginning, the 1970s. A different royal era, a different world, and at the center of it all, three people: Princess Anne, Camilla Parker Bowles, and a man named Andrew Parker Bowles. Now, this part of the story, most people don't know it, but it explains everything. Because before Camilla became queen, before she became one of the most controversial figures in modern royal history, she was just a young woman in love. And that man? Andrew Parker Bowles. But here's where things get complicated. Because Andrew didn't stay with Camilla. He left her. For Princess Anne.
Yes, and.
In the early 1970s, Andrew and Anne began a relationship. And for Camilla, that must have felt like betrayal. Not just losing someone she loved, but losing him to a princess. Someone she could never compete with. Someone who represented everything she wasn't. Royal. And in that moment, a tension was born. One that wouldn't disappear. Because what happened next only made things more complicated. Camilla didn't walk away quietly. Instead, she began seeing someone else. A man who would later become king. Prince Charles. Now think about that. And dates Andrew. Andrew leaves Camilla. Camilla gets involved with Charles. This wasn't just messy. This was a royal web of relationships that tied these people together for life. But none of it lasted. Anne couldn't marry Andrew.
Why?
Because of royal rules. The Act of Settlement made it impossible. And Charles? He didn't marry Camilla. At least not then. Instead, Camilla went back to Andrew. And in 1973, she married him. Just like that. And for Anne, that was the end. Or, at least, that's what it looked like. Because some say, and never truly got over it, Andrew remained close to her. Even after everything. He became the godfather of her daughter. And that kind of connection? It doesn't just disappear. Now, imagine being Camilla. Marrying a man who still has a close bond with the woman he once chose over you. A woman you already had tension with. A woman who is now part of your family. That's not just uncomfortable. That's personal. And that's where the foundation of this feud was built. But the story doesn't stop there. Because decades later, something happened that made everything official. Charles finally marries Camilla. After years of scandal, controversy, and public backlash. And, at that moment, a question emerged inside the palace. Would Princess Anne have to curtsy to Camilla? Now, this might sound small, but in royal terms, this is everything. Because a curtsy isn't just a gesture. It's submission. its hierarchy, its acknowledgement of status. And Anne, she wasn't having it. So what happened next is something most people still don't know. Queen Elizabeth II stepped in. A formal document was created, a royal decree, stating that Princess Anne would never have to curtsy to Camilla.
Think about that.
This wasn't a casual agreement. This was written, official,
A permanent record.
of tension inside the royal family. And imagine how that felt for Camilla. After everything she had gone through, being publicly hated, blamed, scrutinized, she finally marries the man she loves. And on that very day, it's made clear that she will never be fully accepted. At least not by Anne. That's not protocol. That's personal. And for years, that tension stayed just beneath the surface. No public fights.
No dramatic confrontations.
Just distance. Coldness. Silence. But silence doesn't mean resolution. Because as time passed, the roles changed. Queen Elizabeth dies. The monarchy shifts. Charles becomes king. And just like that, Camilla becomes queen. A title that once seemed impossible. A title and reportedly opposed. In fact, Anne had once said something striking. Camilla would never be a true queen. And yet, here she was.
Crowned.
Recognized. Established. And that moment, it didn't erase the past. It brought it back into focus. Because now, the woman Anne once refused to bow to was at the top of the hierarchy. And yet, Anne still didn't curtsy. Not in 2005. Not in 2024. Because she didn't have to. Legally. But emotionally, that's a different story. Because here's where things take an unexpected turn. Despite decades of tension, something changed. Slowly. Quietly. Almost without anyone noticing. Because in recent years, Anne and Camilla have grown closer. Not dramatically. Not publicly. But genuinely. Anne presents Camilla with an honorary doctorate. And something about that moment felt different. They smiled. They laughed. They moved together naturally.
No tensión. No coldness.
Just ease. And then came something even more surprising. Anne spoke about Camilla.
Publicly.
And what she said, it changed everything. She praised her. Called her generous. Understanding. Committed. From someone like Anne? That's huge. Because Anne doesn't give praise lightly. So what changed? Why now? Why, after decades of distance? There are a few reasons. First, the death of Queen Elizabeth. She was the anchor, the mediator, the one who kept everything balanced. Without